Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. I have to apologize right off the start for the echo you might be hearing because I'm up in the kitchen. I am not recording this down the basement because today we're going to be taking a look at this Toshiba 19-inch TV, and it's rather heavy and I don't feel like taking it downstairs. So we're just going to work on it upstairs here because this is easier for me. Let's start by taking a closer look at this TV. It is an incredible specimen. The condition is absolutely shocking. The thing basically looks brand new, other than a little bit of dust on it. And if you can believe it, this set was found on the street. It was left for dead on the street, trash picked basically. But unfortunately, it wasn't found by me, it was found by one of my friends, and I'm just taking a look at it for him. So this is not something I can keep, even though now that I've played around with it, I completely love this set, and I really wish it were something that I could keep. Now, this isn't going to be an actual repair video because if you can believe it, this set, which is from 1978, completely works perfectly. The only small issue with this set are a few of the pots, like the color and the tint control, which is right down here on the front, are a little gummed up, and I'm going to try to get some contact cleaner on those to loosen up the grease inside. But honestly, I cannot believe the condition of this set. It looks like it was found in its box or something. So as you can see right down the bottom here, this is a Toshiba set, like I already mentioned. It's a color set, as you can tell by the little color logo there, and it's the Toshiba black stripe line. I don't know if that really has something to do with like the CRT, which is a rather light color phosphor. I don't think it has tinted glass like later sets had on it. The two controls on the front are push-pull, with this one being the power switch and the volume, and this one being the contrast, and I guess you pull it for ABC, whatever ABC means. Looks like there's some type of sensor right here. I don't think this is a remote control. This might be a light sensor for the ambient room light. Perhaps it dims the picture when you're in a dark room. If anyone has any idea what that is, definitely let me know. I don't have the original manual, of course, since this was found on the street. We have the tuner controls, we have VHF on the top here, it's a nice clunky knob as usual, and then below that is UHF, and I think this is 83 channels, which would be typical for North America at this time. The set has, of course, the 1970s faux wood grain, and look at the condition, basically perfect. And also on the right side, there's a headphone jack, and then we have color PST and tint PST. Don't know what that means exactly, but this might have something to do with like an automatic color control or maybe that ABC setting, and these are some internal adjustments to calibrate that. The left side of the set has more wood grain splendor, but otherwise doesn't have any controls or openings at all. And here we are looking at the back of the set. Now it does have a power cord that is fixed, and it looks like at some point it's had a little bit of repair job. I didn't put this tape on there. I did plug it in and test this TV with this. I hope under there is not too sketchy. On the back of the cabinet, there's a model number sticker here. It is the C771T. And we also have external controls for drive controls and the bias controls for the CRT. But I didn't have to adjust these at all. And the picture quality and the color balance is really quite good. Over here on this side where the power cord comes out, this is like the interlocking type. So basically when you pull the back cover off, I have a feeling the cord is gonna stay attached and now be disconnected from the chassis. So you can't run the set with the rear cover removed. That was a very common thing to do on TVs that had vacuum tubes because they anticipated that owners would remove the back cover to service them, and they didn't want people to operate the set while they had the back cover off. So I think that's why this is called the interlocking cord. Underneath it though, you can see this little white button here. That is a circuit breaker. So this has a built-in circuit breaker, which is kind of nice if you want to try to avoid a potential fire or something like that. You probably won't be able to read it, but it does say manufactured in April of 1978. And along the bottom, we have a few more controls that are exposed to the back of the cabinet. We have vertical hold, there's a vertical linearity, and there's a vertical size control. This one here is a sub brightness control, and this has something to do with the AGC. I can't quite read what it says, but AGC control, so automatic gain control for the RF. On the very far edge right here, there's one more control, and this is the focus control. And I did tweak that a little bit to bring the focus in a little bit better. It's not the sharpest image in the world on this set, but judging by the age and the unknown number of hours that it's had, it's still remarkably good, the picture quality. On the top of the set is a metal handle, a carry handle. It does not have any handles on the side of the set as you saw, although you can put your fingers underneath the bottom of the set. It's easy to lift it from the bottom. The handle is metal, even though the rest of the cabinet, like the wood on the top, which you can't see but doesn't have any scratches on it at all, is totally plastic. But the set is heavy, so there must be a lot of metal inside that holds the chassis together, because this thing is far heavier than I would expect for a television of this size. There are a couple rod antennas on the top, and actually one of them has been broken off at some point, so that's the only kind of damage that there is to the set. Over here, there's a couple more controls. We actually have the brightness control for the set, and then we also have automatic fine-tuning control, which has 3 positions. And one of the positions is ABC. So there's off, on, and ABC. So that's that same setting that we saw on the front, which I don't really know what that means. This set, of course, being from the 70s, has 300 ohm antenna connections. So it has screw terminals for VHF, and obviously these come from the rod antennas, which you would connect up there. And then these are the UHF terminals on the top, and there are these little things here, which would almost certainly be for like a round type of UHF antenna that would have been attached to this set originally, but that is long gone. We'll take a look at this set operating after I open the cover, because I want to get those pots cleaned out, so this set will have many more years of good operation. Looks like under the handle has a screw as well. Looks like on the underside there are just a couple screws which need to be removed. Incidentally, it says right here that the set 120 volts, 60 hertz, it runs on up to 92 watts, and it is made in Japan. It says here also this TV receiver is manufactured by the Tokyo Shabura Electric Company. So that's obviously what Toshiba is, and it has their address in Tokyo, Japan. I just pulled these knobs off the top here, and one of them went flying out of my hand and almost went into the heating vent. I would have been able to get it because you could just lift the vent up. But that was kind of hilarious. I think that's it for all of the screws. Like I said, the power cord is probably connected into something, so that's going to make it a little hard to get the back cover off. Is this thing loose? All right, clunk, there we go. It says inside the cover that it runs at 24 kilovolts. All right, there we have it. That's the inside of this set. Now we can tell by the amount of soot on here that this thing is not low hours. That's pretty amazing that it's well used, and yet the picture is really, really bright and in great condition. As I suspected, all this heavy metal right here and here, that's probably why this thing is pretty heavy to move around, just because all of this solid metal here wouldn't be there on a more modern, crappy plastic set. All right, over here, we actually have 2 things. The flyback is underneath here, and I know you can't really see it with the camera angle, but it is down here. And then I'm assuming this right here is like a tripler maybe, or something like that, that takes the output from the flyback and then raises up to the 24 kilovolts that this CRT uses, and then has an offshoot here that will be for like the focus voltage on there. Hopefully the camera is actually focusing on it, but there it is. That's the flyback transformer down there. Here's the back of the neck board. Those are those drive and bias controls I mentioned. What does it say here? Caution, this board is fragile, avoid damage. Okay, yep. Looks like here on the deflection yoke we have some extra controls and stuff. Maybe that's convergence or something like that. I will not be touching those because the image looks quite good. Down on the main board here, we have several modules, and actually inside the cabinet, there was a sticker and it described what these were, and it was like G modulation and I don't know, various different things. Probably there's integrated circuits on these little modules here. So for 1978, this set was somewhat cutting edge. Of course, this is a solid state set. There are no tubes or anything in here. So yeah, there's most likely some little bits of fancy electronics going on these little modules. And it's nice that it has this little bar on the top here, which keeps these from moving around. I mean, they still can move. I'm assuming they're in connectors. If you have a set like this and it's got like weird intermittent issues, I would definitely check to make sure on the bottom of this thing, you'd have to like turn the whole set on its side, that it didn't have cold solder joints or bad connections on these modules, because that could cause all sorts of issues. Looking down there on the main board, you can see some of the gray electrolytic caps that exist there, and the TV's working really well. It doesn't seem to have any issues at all, so I'm assuming those caps are all working, at least at this point in their life. And over here on the left side on the back, or the right side when you're looking at the front of the set, this would almost certainly be the power supply. There's a large cap right here, and then there are several more on this board, and then there are some large power resistors that are on the other side of this thing mounted to this metal plate. This will be the kind of primitive power supply this thing has. It'll be like a pass transistor that bleeds off excessive current down to those power resistors. Basically, the B plus of this set is probably something around like 135 volts. I'm just making a wild guess here. And that means once you take 120 volts mains in the US here and you rectify it, you get whatever, like 160 volts. So it's got to bleed off around 30 volts or so, 30, 40 volts, depending on your line voltage in your house. But of course, if you have excessively high line voltage due to whatever issues, then that can cause those resistors to get extra hot and you might have a potential failure on this board. We can see a couple of resistors right here and the board is pretty toasty looking right there. But it's nice the design here puts this stuff away from all the other electronics so that it's not necessarily baking all these components. Although these caps right here could be prone to failure, although they're not super close to these resistors. And I said like the larger power resistors are on the back of the board there, so they're not baking these. Even though there's a circuit breaker right here, there's also a fuse as well, so that could potentially blow. But of course, if that blows, then you need to find out if anything else is wrong. Luckily, Sam's has the schematic for this set, so if you need to work on it, you can find that relatively easily. I think it costs, what, like 20 bucks or something from Sam's. We have our tuners here, the UHF tuner, and there is the VHF tuner up there. So I'm gonna try to get some Deoxit inside of this can up here because I noticed that the UHF or VHF tuner, I mean, is a little finicky, just like turning ever so slightly. You get some issues where like it suddenly gets a staticky image where you lose picture. These pots up here are hard to turn, so I'm gonna be hitting these with the CRC. And down there, it's hard to see because all these wires and stuff, but there are 2 additional pots for color and tint, and I'm going to be hitting those so I can hopefully free those up. Here are the front controls. It was just easier to take them out because I couldn't really see an opening into the pots. Ah, there's opening there. So I was kind of spraying into there and it wasn't really having an effect. So I'm just gonna spray in there like that, which should loosen up all that horrible grease that is in there. Come on. Oh yeah, that's freeing up. They were still working okay. There wasn't like any kind of static or anything. It's just the grease has turned solid in there. Let's do this one as well. Oh yeah, this one on the left here is completely freed up. Let's keep hitting it with the CRC though. This one is still not as free. Come on. This one though, on the other hand, is completely easy to turn now. Sometimes what you see is you'll see some like yellow liquid dripping out as the CRC dissolves the gunk that's in there. So that is normal. I'm gonna grab a paper towel. We'll just put that down there to catch the gunk there. Let's see, is this one freeing up? It's still a little stiff. This one totally free. That is so easy to turn now. Okay, I want to let those dry out a little bit, and then I'm going to put in some of this, which is Deoxit Fader Lube. This stuff has a lubricant in there to restore a little bit of that lubricant, which I have just washed away on this paper towel here. Now for these 2 controls here, it's the same story. I'm just going to spray this in there. In fact, let me just move this paper towel underneath and try to catch some of the mess it's going to make. Make sure you wear something like safety goggles when you do this, because this stuff, if it goes in your eyes, would be very bad. Oh, this one is really hard to turn. I'm gonna have to put the knob on it to help me. Oh yeah, that is super stiff. Oops. There we go. Brightness is completely freed up now. It's turning very nicely. That's awesome. Okay. Now this one here, now the one next to it is not a potentiometer. This is like a switch of some kind, and it appeared to be working fine. And that one wasn't super hard to turn, but I'm gonna spray it as well anyways. Oh yeah, that turns very easily, so I don't think there's any issues there. All right, I know you can't see it because it's focusing on this, but there are some pots in the front for the volume and stuff. I'm just gonna try to get this on there, and it's really hard because I'd have to really take the chassis out of here to get the can in all the way. Let's try it this way. These ones aren't scratchy, and they're also not hard to turn, so not really an issue with these. I really could use a double length straw for this thing here. Alrighty, so this thing is pretty much dried now. So I'm gonna spray some of this fader lube inside of here just to get these moving properly. Not a lot, just enough to get inside there, plus a little bit on the top here. There we go. Move it around in there. This just sort of coats everything with a nice little film. So hopefully it should stay free moving and not get scratchy again. The same for this pot right here, which I can get right in here very easily. Spray a little on the top too. Now, as far as the tuner goes, the VHF tuner, it's in a can, so that's not really easy to get into. So I see a little opening here. I'm just gonna try to spray some of this fader lube into there. I don't know if that's really gonna help, but just turn the knob a whole bunch of times. A lot of times they have a self-cleaning action, so just turning the knob helps anyways. And that's pretty much it for adjusting the dirty pots. You know what, let me just do the ones on the back here while I'm at it. I mean, we're right here, right? So let's just do it. Now I just need to reinstall this control assembly here. There were two little screws that held that on, so we'll just get this back in here. Okay, the color controls are back in. Let's flip this TV around and power this up and see how it looks now. Well, because of that power cable interlock, we're gonna have to put this cover back on here. Okay, I put a few of the screws in, two on this side here, so the power cord stays in there. I don't want that popping off or anything while we're testing. I think, yeah, let's plug it in. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's turn this on to see if there's still powers up. All the controls are all out of whack, so I'm sure the image will look not good. Okay, I hear high voltage and we have sound, so that's a good sign. Let's make sure we still have a picture. Oh, it might not. I have the picture all the way down. The brightness control might be all the way down. Let's see, that's not, there we go. Brightness was nearly all the way down. Okay, so there we go. We got some static. Let me go grab a test source. All right, we have the VG91 for testing here. It's an RF signal generator, which of course this TV has no composite input. And before you think, can you composite mod this? The answer is no. This is a live chassis set. It's not safe unless you do isolation transformers and all sorts of fancy stuff. So I'm gonna be using this cable here, built by a lovely viewer. It goes from BNC to an F connector. I forgot my lovely viewer's name, but he made several cables for me so I could connect to this thing without needing a bunch of adapters, although I'm gonna be using this, who remembers these things, to clip onto the back of your TV. Yes, it's lazy and it's not good for signal integrity, but it's very quick and easy to connect up to the back. All right, set on. VG21 on, or 91 on. Okay, this is set for channel 6. There it is. And let's see, is this touchy? You know what? It's still a little touchy, but it's a lot less touchy than it was. All right, well, I was gonna fix the horizontal hold, but it looks like the potentiometer, I had a little cap on it that sticks through the back of the case, and that got bent. So I'm gonna have to take the cover off and fix that again. All right, the set is back together. I have the vertical hold pot fixed. It did get sort of pushed in. It was misaligned already. That was not my doing. So when I put the back cover on, it sort of pushed it back a little bit. So I just bent it back and all is okay, as you can see. Now the linearity is all out of whack, as is the size. So let me fix that. All right. Okay, that made it roll, which is not a problem. Just fix the vertical hold. All right, so let's see. That is very eggy on the bottom. We want to make the circle to be less eggy on one side, so as round as possible. May not be perfect because of the caps are just old. That looks not bad. Let's stretch out the size. All right, well, it looks like I have to turn the vertical size all the way up to max, and now it's eggy on the bottom, so let me adjust it a little bit. So I think, you know, this thing could use a few caps, especially in that part of the circuit, and that would probably fix this. All right, I think that's about as good as it's gonna get, to be honest. It's not perfect linearity, it's still a little a little eggy on the bottom, but I mean, it's an old set. Like I said, those caps are old. They're working, but just barely. The picture was shifted over to one side as well. I didn't see any controls in there for the position. There might be like a jumper link you have to move or something, but there was nothing particularly obvious. All right, let's adjust some of these color settings here a little bit. That looks pretty good. Let's see what does this ABC thing do. Just kind of brightens the picture. I don't really know. Oh, and it turns on this light here. So obviously that's not a sensor like I thought it was. It's just a little lamp. Is that actually better with it on? I don't know, I don't think so. But I think it's just whatever those control settings were on the side, sort of presets that ABC thing. Up on the top here, I have automatic fine tuning on, so that's off. So now the fine tuning knob should do the trick, and it does. AFT on definitely looks the best. Let me put the other knob on. Where's the other knob? Okay, there's the brightness knob. So that's all the way down. Now there is a sub brightness control on the set, so let's adjust that as well. I'm gonna put the brightness control sort of midway. We'll turn up the sub brightness so we can just see the image. Alrighty, there we go. Now we have a lot more adjustability on the brightness control. Yeah, nice. I'd say the linearity of this picture is not too bad. It is definitely a bit stretched at the top. So if this thing needs any new caps, it's gonna be in that vertical deflection circuit where those two controls are. So yeah, a couple little caps probably fix that right up. But you know, if you're just gonna be watching old TV shows and stuff, it's totally fine the way it is here. All right, so the set is currently on channel 3 and I have the output power, that thing, you know, cranked all the way up, but it looks pretty good. This is what I was talking about with the tuner knob. See if I just bump it a little bit there. So it's still, you know, not perfect, but I don't have any actual tuner cleaner. So that's just how it goes. Sometimes just moving it back and forth a whole lot of times will kind of help a little bit. It's better now. It's definitely better than it was. Originally it was really touchy. You just touch the knob like that and it would be going in and out. It's definitely working a lot better now. All right, all appears to be well with the TV. Let's hit play there. I have a commercial tape in here, unfortunately. I can't find the tape. I made a bunch of like recordings of my own videos and stuff onto it. It's around somewhere, but I put it somewhere along with this other hilarious tape I found at the thrift store. So we're just gonna have to watch this as part of the outro. No sound either, of course, because that would be bad. So that's it. That is the Toshiba C771T from 1978. It's still kicking with all of its original components. Pretty good quality image, I gotta say, as well. Yeah, this will bring back plenty of nostalgia for my friend who, I think he wants to watch some old VHS tapes of Doctor Who or something like that from the 70s. So it's like perfectly time appropriate, this television. This Toshiba though, it's pretty cool. Uh-oh, we're gonna get into the movie here, so I'm gonna have to rewind the tape. But yeah, this TV is pretty cool. It looks really cool. The condition is amazing. It just needs a little bit of a clean. Basically, the cabinet's a little dusty. Hands got a bit dirty working on the inside. So yeah, I think a good thorough clean on the outside should make this thing look basically brand new. And down the road, if my friend wants, and I unfortunately just don't have time for it, but I know I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but I think this TV really could benefit from at least some new caps, at least in the vertical deflection circuit. As we can see here, this top part here is just not perfect. But I mean, ultimately, watching this thing, I don't think anyone's gonna notice. Only nitpicky people like me might. Overall, the image quality is great. There's no burn-in. Picture tube is bright. I mean, yeah, what can I say? This thing is awesome. So I think that's gonna be it for this video. I know there was no repair going on here. This was just a little bit of an adjustment and the cleaning of those pots. If you have pots on something that are all sticky and stuck, like the ones were on this one, then this CRC stuff, grab it here. This is it, the QD electric cleaner. It is flammable, so be careful. Don't use it on live circuits, especially things with like high voltage like this. But this stuff really dissolves that grease and frees up those old pots. So it's a good way to bring them back to life. It also cleans them, so if you have scratchy pots, that really does the trick as well. I know I'm a huge fan of Deoxit, but from what I hear, Deoxit can accidentally wipe away some of the material. inside of the pots, which can be a bad thing, like the carbon tracking or whatever, the carbon material. This is what I've heard. I've never had it happen myself. I've used it a million times, but this stuff really does clean out that grease very specifically. That's what this is good for, but it does get rid of all the lubricant, so you want to reapply some of that fader lube stuff from Deoxit, which gives you a little bit of lubricant. And yeah, so there we go. Thumbs up if you like this video, if you like seeing this old set. I do love this thing a lot. And you know, subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks to my patrons. I'll put their names over here. And I guess that is gonna be that. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Ooh.